Mentality creates reality. I've seen it in my own life, and I believe in blessings because I am one.
Brandon Novak, a former professional skateboarder and TV star from shows like Viva La Bam and Jackass.
The Novak. Oh my God.
What was it like going from living on the streets, homeless, eating out of trash cans, to now you're a TV star?
In reality, I was never more fucked in my brain because I knew no matter how much I loved what I had at that moment, it was only temporary. And I always knew within that one of two things were going to happen. That either I was going to get sober or I was going to die in the process of trying to by an overdose.
He's an addict turned best-selling author and recovery advocate, using his story and platform to help others overcome addiction.
Sex, porn, gambling, social media, we all have these vices. And what it allows me to do is avoid me from having to look at me.
The magic that we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding.
Yeah, and I avoided that like the plague, man. I wanted no part of that.
What were the things that you did that you feel like were the most important to rebuilding yourself?
Was I stopped talking and I just started walking. And then ultimately what happened was my walk started to become my talk because my behaviors were changing.
Tribulations today, do you feel enough?
I'd say
you have a very interesting life, and like you had a lot of success early on, like way younger than most, right? By 14 years old, you were signed professional skateboarder. I think you were discovered by Stacy Peralta. You know, I don't know, 15, 16, you're in a Gatorade commercial with Michael Jordan, you know, representing the skaters. Like you had so much success early on. What do you attribute that to? Like, why did you have so much success so early? Was it just pure God-given talent? Was it your work ethic? What made you so incredible that young?
I believe I was blessed to find my God-given talent. You might be the best ping pong player in the world, but God might not see fit to put a paddle in your hand. Therefore, it just goes unrecognized. Life is all in retrospect and lived forward and learned backwards. I got my first skateboard at like 7. And prior to that, I could care less about skateboarding. Didn't look at it, didn't think about it, didn't even know it existed. I came from a pretty rough home life. My father was he was a Hell's Angel. He never held a job a day in his life, and he kind of taught me a thing, and that was I went to prison, how to conduct myself. He was like around just enough to let us know that he was not around kind of guy. And my mother is an amazing woman, and she was the head of the household, and she raised us. She created stability, structure, security for us, and she's got her very first job at Mercy Hospital as a phlebotomist, drawing blood for $5 per vial. And she literally worked her way up the ladder to become a nuclear physicist on the board of that very same hospital. But in the interim, right, she had to fucking devote her life and every waking moment to climbing that ladder. So therefore, she didn't really want to leave me home with my father because needless to say, his behaviors were rather like erratic and sporadic, and anything could happen at any moment. So my sister and brother kind of raised me, and my sister would live in Ocean City, Maryland every summer, and they would send me down there with her. And one day she said, "Hey, I'm going to the skate park to see this guy." She takes me to the skate park with her to see this guy. This guy is realistically probably just trying to bang my sister. So he gives me his skateboard, and literally, and the moment that board touched my hand, like I knew that this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life.
What was that feeling like?
It was like blinders on. I had tunnel vision. At that exact moment, schooling was not important. Plan B, a trait or an option, was not relevant. Like I knew that this was going to be the thing that I did, despite any and all adverse consequences that were ever going to come my way. And I did it. And that skateboard did for me later on what I spent a lot of money and everything I cared about, which was drugs, took over with and shut this off. It just quieted my brain. And I did it. And through doing it, skateboarding raised me. It put a safeguard around me. It made me feel welcomed. It made me feel loved. It made me feel part of, and it taught me these core values in life that literally I've been blessed to build my structure on today, which is failure is not an option. the word no is unacceptable. You know, like skateboarders, we get a trick in our mind and we try it for days, weeks, months, years. And we're not like, oh, maybe. Like it is, we do it until we can't do it anymore. And that ideology and mentality carried over into later on, I'm sure we'll get into, but like my sobriety, my recovery, and just adversities as a whole in life. You know, it put me around good people. It got me out of my house, and it gave me this drive and this like
a purpose.
Yeah, that I didn't know was there or existed prior to.
So you just had this monomaniacal focus, blinders on skateboarding. There was no plan B since you were 7 years old.
Nothing mattered.
Nothing else mattered.
Women didn't matter, like riding a bike, picking up a baseball, like nothing mattered. All I thought about was skateboarding.
Was that in some way an escape from the chaos of your home where you could just dive into skating and just black out everything else?
Yeah. Because though, you know, I never blame my outcome on anyone else today. But at the time as a child, before I knew better, I wanted to find some kind of joy. And my mother did the best that she could with my brother and sister to provide that. And they did on a lot of days. But I came from a household where you never knew what was going to happen when my father walked through the door.
So skateboarding was the predictable thing that you could count on.
Yeah.
It was your stability.
I could hang my hat on it.
You could hang your hat on it.
I could rely on it. I could depend on it.
It was in your control too.
It was fucking everything that my father wasn't, if you think about it. And I don't want to make this like a poor me thing, because it's not.
But it was the context that laid the foundation for who you became.
It was the only thing that was really consistent in my life.
Yeah.
You know, the home that we slept in was not consistent because we never knew like if we were going to have to run in the middle of the night.
Why was that?
Just because the way my father carried himself and the things that he did to us and to my mother.
There was the like threat of violence all the time.
Yeah, verbally, you know, sometimes physically, always mentally. And that, you know, I was kind of in a weird way being shifted and shaped and molded and almost groomed to become like the insane drug addict that I became later. Because ironically enough, everything that I did in my life was to prove a point of why I will never be him. Right? Like everything that I excelled in, whether it was skateboarding, whether it was like, you know, the jackass stuff, the right, like it was to prove why I would never be that bum of a man. And then ironically enough, I made him look like a walk on the park on a Sunday morning. Right? Like it was like chump change. And
we end up manifesting our greatest fears.
Totally. And that's life, you know, and thank God that I was without that. I wouldn't be the child of God that I am today.
Yeah.
You know, I had to. It was a necessity for me to endure those rather uncomfortable and undesirable situations.
Yeah.
Because what I didn't know then that I know now was just me being divinely inconvenienced. That's all it is.
What was it like? Because you're skating, you're in love with the process, you know, you love this as a craft, but then, you know, at 14, 15, I believe you go professional. Now
I never turned pro while skating, which is the ironic thing about it. So I'm growing up in Baltimore, and I'm with another pro skater by the name of Bucky Lasik, who's a legend. And he took me under his wing, and he kind of recognized the talent and skill that I possessed, and he ultimately allowed me to enter into this amazing world. And I got sponsored by PAL, and I'm doing like I'm sponsored by Gatorade, and I'm doing this, you know, promotional stuff for Gatorade, and right as I'm designing my proto shape and pro model board, like I'm designing prototype shapes of what would work, a little off the tail, a little more on the nose, a little less concave. Right as I'm in that process, I decided that the logical thing would be to pursue heroin. Like literally, like the key to the castle is in the lock, and I'm opening the door, and I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm cool.
It's some form of self-sabotage, right? Like you have the most bright career in front of you. Everything's lining up. What do you think made you go the other way?
What I believe wholeheartely is that I was genetically predisposed, right? Like my father was a drug addict and alcoholic, and his father was a drug addict and alcoholic. My mother, my brother, my sister, and brother and sister were by a different man, right? None of them had an issue. Right. So that paired with the upbringing that I was experiencing, you know, selling drugs with my father, doing drugs with my father, going on drug runs with him as a child, watching him conduct his business, the strip joints, you know, it was ultimate it was ultimately like creating a recipe for just that. This fucking disaster.
That's crazy. So all those
and I didn't understand what I didn't know at the time, which is how progressive, cunning, baffling, and insidious addiction is. Right? It progressively gets worse.
So what age did the addiction begin?
It around 16.
Around 16.
It kicked in. As I'm designing my pro model.
So you kind of leave skating behind. You go down this path of just constant drug abuse and all that. When did Jackass come about?
Jackass, I can't tell you the exact time or year, but how it happened, how it came to play was, I'm in a really bad way. I'm homeless. I'm in Baltimore. I'm shooting dope, and things just don't look good. My mother's kind of already slowly preparing for my death. I can't quite grasp this thing called recovery. And I avoid skateboarding like the plague, right? Like the woman that got away, the thing that hurt my heart the most. So anytime I see a skater, I cringe.
All that unused potential.
Yeah,
like
right?
haunting
all
you.
these things that could have been. And now I'm like deep in the depths of despair, of addiction, homeless, fucking, eating out of trash cans, sleeping in abandoned houses. And so I avoid it like the fucking plague. But on very rare occasions when times get insanely tough, I'll stumble into this skate shop and I'll ask them for some money. And I'm telling you, I really avoid that like at all costs.
It's the worst feeling.
Yeah, this day was one of those really bad days. I went to the skate shop and I said, hey, I give them the sad story and they want no part of it. And they're like, but hey, Bam was here yesterday and he was doing a demo with the skate shop and he asked if we saw you and we said rarely. And he left his number and he said, if you want to get clean, move up to Pennsylvania with him, call him. So I take the number. A few days later, I call him. He answers, and that night I'm on a Greyhound bus from Baltimore to Pennsylvania, and allows me to move. And he puts me on the TV show Viva La Bam. And the rules are that like I can drink, I can do blow, but I can't do any opiates or anything like that. Because when I'm doing blow, I'm fun. I can talk. I can socially interact. When I'm doing heroin or any kind of pills in that form, I fall asleep mid conversation. I try to steal your wallet in your car, shit like that. I'm not very controllable. So, and then I total things and break stuff, and he didn't understand addiction at the time, so that made sense to him, and I get that. So as long as I was able to abide by those rules, I could be on the show. I could have a credit card. I could have a car. And I could live in this really big house and just fucking produce when the cameras were on.
Yeah.
And that then led into Jackass.
And this whole time though, you're still constantly on drugs.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be for the kind of content in the.
Well, which is what really helped me in a weird way, because I would do any stunt, and I mean like any stunt, you name it, like I'm in. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So if you weigh the scales of justice here, prior to me ending up in this position to become a household name, to make good money and really prolong my addiction, if you look at it, I'm homeless. I'm sleeping in a shooting gallery in West Baltimore. I'm like letting men blow me for heroin. Like I literally I'm living on this animalistic level. So now you want me to like pull my pants down and sit on a waffle maker, like game on. You know what I mean? Like it was very simple justification.
You were already living in the most extreme pain.
Depths of poverty and like
pain, suffering, that this was like, oh, I'll break a few bones.
Dying would have been a luxury then. Us in this beautiful blessing of a position to do this, but if I put my hand up to do the stunts that nobody wants to do, odds are I'll break some bones. If I break some bones,
the doo-doo falls.
I'm going to the hospital, and they're handing me a stack of scripts, which I'm allowed to do.
Holy shit!
Right?
So you literally consciously were destroying yourself and doing the craziest stunts so you could just get your addiction.
Yeah, totally.
That's insane.
And they'd be like, it's cool. And I'd actually get like a high five because I did well that day.
And they were reaffirming that addiction because they were giving you praise for doing the crazy shit that you knew would end you up there.
For sure.
Wow.
Not knowingly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
but
none of us.
You knew.
Yes, I did, but I was so disconnected from reality. I accepted to see it.
Yeah.
I lived in a really delusional world for a long time.
Yeah, I can get that. What was it like going from living on the streets homeless, eating out of trash cans to now you're a TV star.
Yeah.
Now you're like a household name. Everyone, like I was watching Jackass as a kid. I was like, these guys are awesome. You know.
Well, the thing
like,
is,
how is that like dealing with the fame and the notoriety for coming from that contrast?
And I'm not trying to give a shameless plug here, but this conversation isn't nearly long enough to like encompass the whole reality of it. And that book that I told you about, The Streets of Baltimore, I really get in the depths of the psychology of an addict and alcoholic. And during those times where most people would be like, fuck, that's it. Like, and from outside perspectives, people thought that I really had a grasp on this thing called reality, which in itself is an acquired taste anyway. So, they, you know, people thought that I had done things that would equate to success, happiness, maybe even dream of doing. But in reality, I was never more fucked in my brain because I knew I was starting to understand the gravity and magnitude of my addiction and alcoholism. And no matter how much I loved what I had at that moment, it was only temporary, because my addiction was absolutely going to make me make terrible decisions, which would then allow this whole deal to crumble. And then I'm back where I started, which is even worse, because it's like, you know, imagine having the taste of a very blessed, beautiful life and the high life of things, to then in the blink of an eye being thrusted back to Baltimore City with no money, trying to figure out where you're going to sleep tonight. Literally that quick. Because like,
is that what actually happened, or was that a fear?
Oh, multiple times.
They kicked you off the show.
Yeah, off the show and out of the house. Because like, and rightfully so, if anyone was doing to me what I was doing then at that time, I'd fucking kill you, right? Like, and it wasn't that I was a bad person that did bad things. Quite the contrary, and this is for all addicts and alcoholics that are diagnosed with a terrible disease, makes us make terrible decisions. My mother, the most important person to me in this world, couldn't love anyone more in my life. But God forbid I wake and I need $10 for a bag of heroin, and she's standing between me and that bag. She must and will go. And I promise you this. And the depths that addiction take me to. Wow. So like, I knew that like this was amazing. If I took advantage of the opportunity, that my future could be limitless and the sky is the limit. But I also knew that like I was going to continue to steal. I was going to continue to lie. I was going to continue to overdose. I was going to continue to like not deliver what I am hired to do. And that's what is the hardest. So therefore, like, you know, I'd wake up sometimes and like they'd go through my bags and they'd find needles and they'd find I'd try to deliver a line and I'm just falling asleep in it. And Ben would get so furious. He's like, get the fuck out. Go home. Go back to Baltimore. And home, there was no home. I didn't have an apartment waiting. Like I had burnt my. He put me on a Greyhound and while I was homeless. So my mother had like served a restraining on me years ago, restraining order, just to have me removed from her home. So it's just then now I'm going back and I'm trying to couch surf off of like the buzz, like oh, you know, yeah, I'm flying out next week. All these, and that's why my book is called Dream Seller, because that's how I kind of
selling some bullshit
over and over, just to acquire like $10 or a little bit of hope or trust or a sofa to sleep on or a car to drive or, you know, a woman to shack up with.
Right.
You know, that was kind of my MO.
Yeah.
So that was really tough because like when most people would be like, wow. And it was great. It was some of the best times I've had in my life were getting loaded, partying and fucking off with the fellas and private jets here and the suites in Vegas, you know, the whole deal. But unfortunately, the party that I loved and lived in for so long and like no longer was a party and turned into like a full-blown hostage negotiation that I was not allowed to leave. And that's the reality for me.
Yeah.
So therefore it's just fucking easier for me to stay sober.
Well, it's interesting because like your big break, you think, okay, this is your opportunity to finally get out of the circumstances you were in. But you just took the prison that you were in on the streets and took that into the limelight where it's even expanded further. And you're playing the character on steroids now.
Legit.
Right? You literally... You have to perform and do the craziest shit to get love, to get this fast food love from the world. And as you're getting more famous, as you're getting bigger and bigger, you're getting further and further away from yourself.
It's so funny you say that, and a lot of people don't recognize it, but the character that I was playing is literally a junkie's dream, right? The more outrageous my behaviors are, the more outlandish my antics become, the higher the ratings go, the more in demand I become, the more money I make, the more dope I can shoot. And it's just a fucking, it's a hamster wheel over and over and over that ultimately prolongs any kind of recovery. Right?
Yeah.
It allows me to deflect, justify, and minimize the severity of my addiction. So I can just continue to fucking, you know, people see me and they're like, oh shit, what's up, Novak? And they hand me a bag of Coke or hand me some pills. You know, they know that I am that drug addict character that will do anything with anyone, wherever, for however long we can do it. So I use that to my benefit to continue to just get high. And ironically enough, the way that it's so beautiful looking back. And I always say, thank God, God is God and I'm not God, because I will fuck that job up miserably. But I was really being shaped and molded to this place where I was going to use that base that I built and followers that I've been blessed with to turn into a vessel or a conduit for people who may want help. Right? And
that's how it all played out.
Yeah. Like the worse I got, the bigger the blessing was about to become.
The pain became great enough because I believe you went to rehab 13 times.
Yeah, totally.
That's quite a few times, right? So you're a star now, you've had success, still battling the same demons. You're in and out of rehab. It's just this almost hopeless fight at some point. I don't know how the fuck to get off this thing. The 13th rehab, what was it that clicked? What was the inflection point that had you go sober for good?
I literally become that hopeless cause, right? I go to a 12-step fellowship, and in there they talk about this this case that is inconstitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves or others, is a hopeless situation. And that's what I was doing. It didn't matter if I could get honest with you. I just couldn't get honest with the most important person in the equation, which was me, right? Because that lies to me in my own voice and always make me believe the unbelievable, right? And as an addict or an alcoholic, the job of that disease is to deflect, justify, and minimize the severity of the sin. It keeps me very disconnected from reality, and long enough with that disconnection, the abnormal becomes the normal. So you and I, we stare at this painting and we see two completely different fucking things. In the same room, same seat, two.
You're like, how can I pawn that for dope?
Yeah, like, well, I already figured out like what street corner I need to meet them on, and like who did it and who's gonna give me the most, and how far is that from the fucking dope boys.
Everything to feed the addiction.
Yeah, and so what I do, who I do it with, and where we do it all revolves around the getting and using and finding ways and means to just acquire one more, because that's what my brain tells me, right? I just need one more, and then tomorrow we're gonna get right.
Yeah.
And I believe when I say like tomorrow's the day. I believe it.
How many times did you say that?
I've lost count. But then, you know, tomorrow's going to be the day. I just got to get right now. And I get right now. And then I wake up tomorrow and I repeat yesterday's actions. And I'm stuck in Groundhog's Day for 21 years. Right? So now I have this brain that lies. Your voice appears in my brain. And you're like, oh, Novak, you've been sober 10 years. You can have a glass. Fuck you, stranger danger. It's my voice in my head that tells me you've been sober over 10 years. Everything that brought you into recovery, right? The lack of finance, the lack of romance, the lack of money, the lack of opportunity, the lack of business, I have in abundance. And so those very same things that created the pain, which provided the willingness to do what I had never done, which was reach out and ask for help, if I'm not careful, can be the very same things that take me back out, because my brain will tell me you're different. Life is different. You've acquired the knowledge. Ignorance is no longer bliss, right? Like you can overcome these obstacles. You can catch it before it gets that bad. You're going to $1,000 dinner tonight. Why wouldn't you have a glass of wine with it? Like the people in my life today have never really even seen me high. My life is really different. And so honest truth of the matter is the longer I stay sober, the more dangerous it becomes. It's easy for me to fucking lock in, 10 days sober. I'm fresh out of detox. I'm still shaking. I have a blanket wrapped around me and I can't sleep because the pain is still great enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. But when things are good again, that's when the devil comes back.
Yeah.
Right? But how did you, you're 10 years sober now. Yeah. Why the 13th trip to rehab? What was the moment?
It's funny that you asked that. This last time I went to rehab, and I remember when we were filming Viva La Bam, and we'd finish filming, and the cast and the crew, we'd all go to the pub and we'd drink, and I, a lot of days, would go to like an AA meeting first. And I remember Bam saying to me, he's like, what's wrong with you? We finished an AA meeting, and then you come get fucking. I always knew within things were going to happen because I'm an intelligent individual. I have the wherewithal to understand, like, on the streets with a needle hanging out of my arm is not the right way to go. That either I was going to get sober or I was going to die in the process of trying to by an overdose. Right? Like, I wasn't happy with just being a fucking drug addict, alcoholic the rest of my life. Like, I knew that wasn't what it was for. I end up going to that last treatment center, and I get out, number 13, and I get out. And I have about 3 or 4 months sober right now, and people are like, they like really might do this. Like, this might be something that, and I see Bam, and he's, why the fuck treatment center 13? He's like, why not 12, 10, 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1? Why 13? He said, what, did you have like a meeting with God? And I didn't tell him because he wasn't in the place to grasp it. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I actually did. I did. And I did. And what happened was, nothing changed from treatment center number 1 to number 13. The information or rhetoric that they delivered to me was just recycled. It came at different places by different faces and different voices. What changed was me. I matured. I was evolving. I had failed so many times that how I got to where I'm at today is simply processed through elimination, but backwards. Meaning that I failed so miserably bad for so long at everything I tried. Ultimately, the last thing I tried was the first thing that worked. And it was the thing that they had been suggesting the whole time.
Which was?
Simply fucking, the common denominator in my problems are me.
Yes.
If I get the fuck out of my way, I might stand a chance. I can't do this thing alone. He can. So let him. The drinking and the drugging was not my problem at all. And the longer that I thought that it was my problem that was causing my demise, the more I was going to continue to fail.
What was the root of the problem?
Exactly. I was fighting the wrong opponent, which is why I continued to lose for so fucking long. I was ignorant to the reality of my situation because I refused to give my addiction the time, attention, and respect it deserved.
The respect.
Because I was too smart for my own fucking good.
Right.
Which is the problem with most addicts now. Actually, the majority, I'd say 9% of us, is we don't get to where we're at because we took the short bus to school. Quite the contrary. I got to where I was at because I was too smart for my own fucking good. And I would land in a seat in a treatment center that literally had the ability to save my life, and I'd outthink myself right out of it. I'd seen me do it more times than I cared to remember. So ultimately, at the end, my higher power, I'm easily distracted. I'm an accessories whore. I'm easily distracted by money, property, prestige, and pussy get me every time. Always diverts me from my primary purpose, which is simply to just make it through another day sober, be a really good human being, and help out my brothers and sisters, which are God's children, right? But God damn it, let a fat ass, let a fucking nice car or a big paycheck pass me, and I'm...
The animal crazies come back,
totally.
Right? And they just overcharge you and take you out of your purpose.
For sure. And I recognize that now. Like, listen, so now I can't really stay stuck on stupid as long as I'd like to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know.
Yeah, but you said something like, I'm curious, were the other rehab stints, did you develop a connection with God at any of those, or was it the 13th one where like you actually surrendered and started building this faith?
So that's where this comes into play, right? Knowing that I'm easily distracted by outside activities, I never give my addiction the respect or time it deserves. My higher power saw fit to remove me from every distraction. So I walk into that 13th treatment center. Literally all that I own to my name is 8 scarves, 2 jackets, 3 socks, one stick of deodorant. It fits into this bag that doubles as my pillow because I'm like a homeless dope fiend. A needle, a spoon, and a restraining order. And a passport. I had a passport. I was able to hold on to a passport. But that's all that I had.
Yeah.
Everyone, and I mean everyone in my life, felt that it was the best to love me from a distance. No one was looking for me. No one was waiting on me. Everyone just said, you know, when we want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
My mother had bought me a plot at this point. People had taken life insurance policies out on me.
No way.
I was that hopeless case, incapable of being honest with others. Therefore, people weren't saying if he's gonna die, but like when. People were projecting that outcome, including myself. And I end up in this facility, and I don't want to be there, but I have nowhere else to go. Right? I don't want to do this AA 12-step shit, but they're the only fucking weirdos that are welcoming me. They're the only ones that are happy to see me. And to make matters worse, they're not even giving me $10. So like by force or by choice, I'm stuck with these fucking weird cult-like people. And I'm like, you know what? I have nothing but time, right? Therefore, let's do it. I want to kill myself. I want to fucking die so bad, but I'm just like terrified to hurt myself in the process. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I've been terrible at suicide for a long time because I kept waking up. So I'm like, you know what? Let's run it. And I didn't know if I was going to stay sober. I really didn't. I did not know if I was going to stay sober. But I just. So now I'm starting to give it the attention and respect it deserves. I'm starting to acquire some information and knowledge. And they say, hey, Mr. Novak, you know the heroin that you need to stick into every day, the Xanax that you eat, the methadone. I've given it everything. I've given it my career. I've my homes. I've given it my women. I give it my sexuality. I give it whatever it asks for. And like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot. That is not the solution. It's the answer. It's the right thing in the situation. It's the thing that makes you whole. It's not the problem. It's the solution. The problem is your thinking, your attitude, and your behavior. If you take this glass of wine and you just sit it down and you go to a treatment center for 30 days, yes, you've removed it from your life for 30 days. You get out of treatment and you pick it back up. Of course, it's not a question of if, but when you pick it back up, because all you've done is sound, meaning the same alcoholic will drug again because you have not worked on the problem, which is the thinking, right? So I had to go to a place that created a big enough gap between me and the last needle that I shot into my arm to take a look at my life to see it for what it really was and work on the problem, right? Because like...
The magic that we're looking for is in the work we're avoiding.
Yeah, and I avoided that like the plague, man. I wanted no part of that.
Right.
It didn't fit into my timeline or my narrative. I was a busy man. I had places to go, people to see, women to fuck, and because of that, the answer continued to be a needle in my arm. So the answer, what the fuck is the question?
Yeah, what's the void?
Yeah. So then I start to like learn and understand the reality of my situation. I see that, whoa, keep getting beat so bad by my addiction because I refuse to give it the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're fighting Mike Tyson in his prime, if you're going to fight Mike Tyson in his prime, you're not just there and work out on Sunday mornings for 2 hours. You are going to eat, breathe, sleep, and live, right? That training to endure 12 rounds with the biggest beast in the world. And that's kind of the same thing with recovery or addiction.
You were too casual with it.
Yeah, maybe I'd do a meeting once a week if like some fucking really beautiful women would be there, or if it fit the time that I woke up. I was not treating it like this is life or death.
And it was the whole time.
The whole time.
So would you say like with addiction, you know, I feel like using drugs, and people do this on micro levels that aren't as extreme all the time. We numb ourselves with distractions, with our phones, with substances, but I feel like the substances we use are because of a lack of substance within us.
Absolutely.
Right? So the lack of substance in our life, of purpose, of core relationships, that lack of substance creates this void, this vacuum. And then that vacuum creates so much pain that we look for things in. Right? And so until we address that void within ourselves, we're always going to look for these fast food solutions that aren't good for us to take that away.
A temporary solution for a permanent problem, a Band-Aid on a gunshot, if you will.
Exactly.
And that's, you know, for years was filling this internal void with an external solution.
Yes.
Right. And it just never like held. It didn't stand the test of time, because ultimately what I was doing, and we all have our vices, right? Like don't fucking corner me into this place where, oh, I'm not an addict, I'm not an alcoholic, there's nothing for me to see or hear here. Sex, food, you know, dieting, working out, social media, we all have these, and that's just the solution. Is the behaviors, and what it allows is avoid me from having to look at me. That's really what it is.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting too is, like, I believe that we're all addicts. If you look at everything underneath, why do humans pursue what they pursue? It's all for an emotional payoff. It's for chemicals.
And an instant gratification.
We want dopamine, we want serotonin, and we want oxytocin.
And I need it like yesterday.
Yeah. And then some people are like, you know what, what's the fastest path? I just need it now.
Yeah.
As you rebuild your life and you build it in a healthy, sustainable way where you have fulfillment and joy and peace, you're finding things in life that we're still addicted to, that dopamine, that oxytocin, but you're using that towards healthy, productive goals. You're in the right relationships that give you safety, love, and that oxytocin that actually rejuvenates you. And so we're all addicted to the same chemicals. We all want the same end state emotions, but we just get lost on these paths trying to find these shortcuts to them because we don't know how to get them.
Yeah. And what are the intentions behind the behaviors?
That's a great point.
Like what are my intentions is what it comes down to. So where I get to today, because again, the longer I'm sober, the more successful I've been blessed to be, and the more relationships and connections I have, the things. Ultimately, I need to remind myself to just think less and do more. I just need to think less and do more, because I'll start thinking that I am the one that should take credit for these amazing things that are happening in my life. Right. And now the ego is in full effect. And all ego for me is just easing God out. And then Brandon becomes Brandon's God.
Easing God out.
Yeah. And
ego.
And that's what recovery is, right? Because the core of my disease is that I'm selfish and I'm self-centered. Meaning that everything in my life is me. And 2 seconds for you, but only if it's going to benefit me. Right? It's all transactional, and it has to benefit the way that I feel and the outcomes that I'm projecting that I deserve. I. The definition of recovery is just to think a little bit less about me and a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
Right? The opposite of addiction is connection. Therefore, community, like family, is vital. I can't do this alone. So now, the longer I stay sober, the more successful I've been blessed to be, the more that I think that I'll know on any given day, which means I'm projecting outcomes for you. Right now, I've just placed an expectation on you. All I've done in placing this expectation on you is set myself up for an unfulfilled resentment, because you will not live up to my expectations. I don't even live up to my own fucking expectations. So the moment that you do what I don't think you should do, I'm now immediately resentful at you. And in my program, resentments are the #1 offender that will take an addict or an alcoholic to a drink or a drug.
I like the distinction we made here with ego and God.
Yeah.
I believe this is the dichotomy of life. And when we're in our egos, everything is about us. We feel separate from
Us
everyone.
meaning me.
Us meaning me.
Yeah, there is no
as
us.
individuals.
It's fucking
It's
me.
about I, me.
It's me.
But that's the thing is, when we're in our ego, we feel separate.
Yes.
We're disconnected from a higher power.
100%.
We're disconnected from others because we're resenting them.
Yep.
We're judging them.
Yeah.
And
I'm not getting what I want. I don't believe you respect me as I should be respected.
Absolutely. And so we're completely lost in our own worlds, where we're disconnected from the truth.
Yes.
That we are all connected, and that we're not alone. And that feeling of loneliness is so deeply penetrating to the soul. You feel like it's hopeless, but you stay there because you're in the ego. And I think everyone goes through different journeys in the spiritual route. I think there's a lot of paths to God.
For sure.
Right? There's different religions. There's individual spiritual paths. There's going through immense suffering, which forces you to surrender.
I believe God is everything.
Yes.
I believe God is a bag of heroin. People are saying, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, but without me going to the places that I went via drugs and alcohol, I would not be the child of God that I am today.
Well, God presented you with people and circumstances to help you evolve into the truth, into the higher realization.
100%.
that you are God, you are connected to God and all
Totally.
his children, and
I am his son.
you are a son. Yeah. And so I'm curious, how does that, because I think some people listening that, you know, have gone down their spiritual path are like, yes, I get it. And some people are listening like,
For sure.
God is like, what the hell is God?
Totally.
Like, what is, you know, they might just, this might not connect with them, but on a practical level.
And the funny thing is, humanity is the only fucking species that has the audacity to think that we understand what God's will is.
It's very
It's
true.
so fucking great and powerful. And then,
Yeah.
look, to you listeners, this is just my opinion. And you're talking to a guy that did not graduate high school, that got his GED in the penitentiary, right? Like, I'm not professing to be this fucking scholarly, you know, knowledgeable individual.
Theologian.
No. I'm just the guy that's had a few experiences that knows what I believe works best for me today, but tomorrow that could completely change.
Yeah.
Depending on what God presents to me. But I practice that where's my spirituality if I judge your spirituality?
Oof, that's
Straight
good.
up. I was in jail and I fasted with the Muslims. I've went to Greece and been baptized by these Greek monks at Mount Athos, which is like the holy mountain. I lived there for 2 weeks and just fucking chanted with the Gregorian monks. I'm down for whatever, man. I need all the help I can get.
I love, I hope that everyone finds God
Sure.
in this world. I hope that everyone does find that. But the funny part about religion, I think for me, is, you've got Buddhists, you've got Christians, you've got Muslims, whatever it may be. We're all trying to go to the same destination, which is to arrive with God.
Yes.
But someone's in a Toyota, someone's in a Nissan, someone's in a Ferrari. And we're talking about wheels and paint. We're comparing in language, but can only be expressed in energy.
Yeah.
And I don't care what vessel you achieve the relationship with God when someone has it or not.
Sure.
And so who cares about who was the prophet who took down the commitments? That doesn't matter. It's like, are you connected to your higher creator, and are you living a life that is creating a beautiful existence for yourself and others?
And it's all perspective. I couldn't agree with everything you said anymore. And the beautiful thing about that is everything is perspective, right? And we are all God's children, and I need the ones that are atheists, the ones that don't believe, the ones that say fuck God, he fucked me. Those are equally as important as they are to my brothers and sisters who I walk this journey with. And the reason why is because I need thieves, I need liars, I need killers to prove to me why I don't want to be a thief or a liar or a killer, right? It's like, what's love without sadness? What's happiness without joy? What's rain without sunshine? I need those people to like fucking cut me off and give me the finger and say, fuck you, go kill yourself, so I can like reiterate to myself, like, thank God I'm not like in that place. And it kind of pushes me to be a better human being, right?
What were some of the things you did? Because, whether people are struggling with real deep addiction, or they're just, struggling with self-sabotaging vices that are preventing them from stepping into their full power, as someone, because, being sober is the beginning, right? More or less a bit of a blank slate where you can create from that place now, because you're able
Which is really difficult to navigate, because
right,
now,
how do you rebuild yourself?
And I'm newly sober, and right in the beginning I got high to change the way I felt. High because I like the effect produced from drinks or drugs. And now I'm sober, and I'm full with the things that we all have the most of and know the least about, which are fucking emotions. Right now, how do I endure that? Feeling like a stranger in my own skin, trying to figure out who the fuck let me in and why, without reverting back to what I always know brings peace and comfort, a drink or a drug.
Yeah, what were some of the tactical things that you did? Maybe some mindset things that you had to shift, some habits, environment changes. Like, what were the things that you did that you feel like were the most important to rebuilding yourself?
And this is all retrospect. Now it's very clear for me to see, but early on in the beginning stages, I simply, what I did first was I talked less, right? Because I would usually get sober and I would scream it from the fucking rooftop, and I'd call all my loved ones and say, this is it. I'm going to be this man. I'm going to be this son. I'm going to be this employee. I'm going to be this husband, and I'm never going to drink. I'm never going to drug again. And I would always repeat those behaviors. So this last time, for the first time, right, the last thing I tried, first thing that worked was I stopped talking and I just started walking. And then ultimately what happened was my walk started to become my talk, because my behaviors were changing. When my behaviors were changing, the outcomes were changing. And then when the outcomes were changing, the beliefs were changing, right? I couldn't think my way into a better way of life because remember, the thinking is the problem. I didn't understand that. I had to surround myself with like-minded people, right? Power in numbers. Surround myself with like-minded people that genuinely had my best interest at heart. I had a sponsor, I had a mentor, I was working the 12 steps, I was attending 12-step meetings, and I really submerged myself in the culture. And in doing that, all of a sudden, the pain started to lessen, right? My perspective on what I thought was a dark, bleak life that was never going to get any better started to become a little brighter. And then I started to live this life that I love so much that I believe staying sober was worth, right? So it all happened backwards. The way that I was wired, the way that I lived, the way that I conducted business prior to sobriety was to fight was to win. To fight was to survive. To fight was to motherfucking day. And then I walked into sobriety. I was blessed with this new life, and they told me to fight is to lose. To fight is to die. To fight is to relapse. So at that very moment, I realized I had to admit complete defeat in order to secure the ultimate victory. Which was the exact opposite approach that I had fucking, by for 20 years.
Wow.
It was a mind fuck.
That's powerful. Something I am pulling from this too is, you had great friends, I'm sure.
Yes.
But they were enabling the same behaviors. So you were very much a product of the environment you were in. In sobriety, you have a new group of friends because you can't go back to that lifestyle. But I have a big contrast because you had to perform very curated character to get love accepted by people. If you got to do the craziest version of you. Now you're surrounding people that act you, right? Where you don't have to pretend, form, like we just love you.
Yeah.
And that true comfort and love and depth, I think, right? And by surrounded to be this character to survive. Now it was okay to be yourself.
Which, if we go back to the beginning, what we started talking about when we started this talk is that's all that I wanted was security and stability. That's all that I ever wanted.
Oh my God.
Else I was going to be week next month. I wanted to know that I was going to sleep in a bed with clean sheets and pillow, and I wanted to know that I was going to open the same refrigerator for the next month. And those were things that I hadn't had in my life for quite some time because I was so disconnected from this thing called reality.
Wow.
And then ultimately I ended up moving into a sober living house after I completed a 90-day treatment center. And they got me a job washing dishes for $6 an hour. And I had heard about that word humility, but I had never experienced or practiced it. And at the time when I was given this job, my alcoholic brain was telling me that at the very least I should have been the president of the United States. At the very least, not busting suds at a diner for $6 an hour under the table after being a skater, being in movies and books that were extremely successful. What I didn't know then that I now is that job was one of the biggest foundational blocks in my life, and it taught me how to live life. And I credit largely in part who I am today because of that job that I believe was so fucking beneath me.
Do you feel today, going through all this, after all the trials and tribulations today, if you answer honestly, do you feel enough?
I'd say 4 days out of the week I do. And that's a lot fucking better than it was.
I love it.
Straight up, man. Because on any given day, I wake up in one of two modes. Don't you know who the fuck I am? Or please, God, don't ask me who I am.
Yeah, the ego says.
Yeah.
The ego says two things: I am the GOAT, and am I even worthy of love?
Legit.
It's such a stark
Legit,
contrast, right? It's like,
yeah.
And
that's why I start my day on my knees every morning.
Yes.
Right? And I end my day on my knees. And the only thing that like removes me from that really purgatory, scary place to live in is my connection with my higher power. And that is everything to me. I've done none of this. I take no credit for any of it. I simply was blessed to be put in a position to play a very small part in a much bigger picture.
It's a beautiful journey, dude, because I look at life a lot of times like a slingshot. And the further you're pulled back, you have more kinetic energy, the further you can launch forward if you learn to alchemize those tribulations into positive things. And all these things were building your character, and God put you through hell so that you could have this capacity for light to then become a vessel for his message.
And thank God I had no idea what the plan was, because I would have fucked it up.
That's a good point.
You know, I'm like, mark my words. That's what I do. Left to my own devices, I will put this whole beautiful place into a needle and stick it right in my arm. That's just the way that I was wired. And that's the definition of a spiritual experience. The definition of a spiritual experience is simply a psychic change. Right? Meaning that I, Brandon Novak, with over 10 years sober, no longer look, think, act, but more importantly, react the way that I did when I walked into that 13th inpatient treatment center wondering if I was going to make it through the night. And that's why I've been able to consistently show up. It's easy to show up when times are great, money's overflowing from the accounts, women are swinging from the chandeliers. Like, that's just what I do. I show up. But let me show up when my mother has to go to rehab, when my nephew relapses, when I have to split away from business partners, when I just don't know if I can take another phone call today, and everything in me says just don't. Like, that's when you show up, right? That's when it matters. That's where God's most at work. And when I say God, I don't want to discourage anybody out there like, fuck, because God's a heavy word. I don't know what God is. I have no clue if it's a man in the sky with a robe and a beard, or the beach or the ocean. I just know that it's not me. It's a power I was incapable of doing for myself for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, so I like to keep it simple.
I like that a lot, man. Everyone listening, no matter what stage of life they're in, they wanna live a more fulfilling, joyful life, right? Everyone wants that, and you've had to go through some pretty big battles to figure out how to do that for yourself. And so, if you had to leave a message for everyone listening to help them just live a more fulfilling, lasting, happy life, what would you want to share with them?
Man, it's so easy. I think that's why we miss it. And it's just to think less and do more. Because I outthink myself out of doing anything good for myself or others. Because, like, it might inconvenience my day, right? It might not fit into my narrative of what I think the projected outcome should look like. I fuck it up. Just be kind to others. Do something good for someone. Don't overcomplicate a simple process.
That's a damn good answer, man. Well, dude, I appreciate it. Thank you for being so fucking raw and honest.
This was fun, man.
This is a really, I think people resonate with, but yeah, it's incredible, man. For me, it's just it's kind of a stamp on the thing is you can literally go through hell. It doesn't matter what conditions you were brought up in. Doesn't matter how many L's you've taken in life or the excruciating pain or the shame, guilt, anything you carry around, you can always be yourself. You can always be redeemed. And as soon as you're willing to commit to that life that you want, as soon as you're willing to surrender and realize you can't do it alone, and you're willing to put everything you have in creating that, you can do and be anything you want in this life, and it's never too late. And I think your story is just a really inspiring example of that.
1,000,000%, right? Like, literally, if I'm a brain surgeon, I could become a brain surgeon. For an absolute fact. I don't doubt that in any part of my body. I just have to appropriate and delegate the time, and give it the, you know, like, really, like, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Mentality, reality, straight up, like, for a fact. I've seen it in my own life, and I believe in blessings because I am one. Right? Like, you can't tell me. And the majority of the people that I walk with can also share the same testament. Right? And so it's like, yeah, I know that anything's possible provided I just stay out of my way. And, you know, the funny thing about it is I loved drugs and alcohol so much. I still love them so much The only difference is today I don't do them. I'm still just as submerged with them, but I'm provided like a beautiful life from them, right? My poison has become my medicine, and I now like literally have devoted my life to helping people who are where I once was. So if anyone out there has any kind of issue with drugs or alcohol, call me directly at 610-314-6747. I have 2 facilities that I'm at every day. I run lectures at both of those programs, and I have a handful of sober livings that I'm deeply involved in. I am passionate about because I fucking believe in it, and I can see the amazing things that can come from it, provided you just kind of change your perspective on it. No one ever out the pain is going to with possessing this for the better part of 8. May 21st, 2015, I found myself coming to after being on life support for the better part of 7 days. I had my last rites read to me. And a day before they were ready to pull the plug, my mother, who happened to be on the board of that very same hospital that I was on life support in, begged the ICU nurses, please, please, this is my son, don't do this. Please, this is my son, don't pull the plug on him. He's a fighter. You don't know him like I know him. You don't know the strengths that he possesses, the things that he's overcome. He will make it. He will make it. And the doctors, going against their better judgment, they granted my mother her wish and gave me a few more days for maybe God to reveal a miracle. And the next day I came to. And I'll never forget my mother at the bed crying uncontrollably. Doctors coming in disbelief. And my mother said to me, Brandon, you have to stop doing heroin. You have to stop. This has to stop. You were clinically dead. Please, I can't take this anymore. Please, I cannot endure this anymore. This has to stop. And I looked at my mother and I said, Mom, I swear, this is the last time. This is the last time. I swear to God, Mom, this is the last time. She said, Brandon, I can't take this. You have to stop shooting heroin. And I said, I know. I know. I know. Only to find myself sleeping back in that abandoned house that I overdosed in 2 days later. I'm now in this abandoned house. It's 5 a.m. and I find myself huddled around a plywood table that's sitting on top of a milk crate. And there's these little circular candles that we buy for 25 cents at the corner store bodega. You see, I'm renting a room in this abandoned house from Slim. Slim owns this house, and he charges me $10 per night. I'm huddled around this makeshift table, and it's me. It's this elderly woman named Annette, and Annette's friend Tanya. And we're smoking crack. It's 5 a.m.-ish. And what I forgot to share with you is that Tanya, who's recently been released from rehab after doing a 45-day stay, has her child with her. And her child's a baby, and it's in the carriage. And the crack's coming to an end. The party's winding down. The sun's coming up. And as we each take our last blast, Tanya's baby's crying. Annette's telling Tanya why she's a terrible mother because she can't get her child to stop crying.
Soft White Underbelly is about giving people a space to tell their stories, even when these stories challenge what we think we know. Ground News shows us different perspectives in the media, which is why Ground News is a perfect sponsor for my channel. In a world where algorithms censor much of the information we receive, some of the most important stories get missed from our news feeds. Ground News highlights local news from around the world, giving you an on-the-ground perspective that national coverage might miss. The app and website empowers you to form your own opinions by presenting you with every article published on any news story worldwide. My favorite part of the app is the data it gives you on each news source as you read it, such as where it leans on the political spectrum, a factuality rating indicating how subjective their printed reporting tends to be, and who funds it. I particularly like their blind spot feed, dedicated to showing you news stories that are underrepresented in mainstream media. All out by scanning the QR code on screen or...
And on this morning, after smoking crack with these three for the majority of the night, it's my prized possession, my lifeline. It's going to allow me to forget the traumatic events that unfolded the night. You see, because every hit that Tanya takes louder and she wants to profess to the world, but more importantly to me and Annette, why she's the mother of the year, and if she just would have stayed in rehab, how things would have been better, and this night her relapse is not going to set her back because she's going to do what needs to be done in order to become that mother that baby who's in that carriage is crying for, in need of. And as I take the last hit, I put the pipe down. And I'm starting to dismiss myself quietly, similar to an Irish goodbye. No need for a hug or a heart-to-heart. It's best if I leave as quick as I came. But you see, throughout our night of smoking crack, Annette and Tanya witnessed me put the $10 from my pocket into my sock. Because throughout a night of events like that, you never really know what could potentially happen, and it's best to be safe. And again, that $10 was my lifeline. It was a necessity. It was imperative that I had. I cannot go without. I need to forget the sight of that baby crying, looking up at Mom while Mom hits just one more pipe. And as I'm sneaking out, I see Tanya lean into Annette and whisper something in her ear. And I'm none the wiser. I have no idea what was just said. But the sun's coming up, which means the dope boys are coming out. I have to go. As I'm making my way towards the door, Tanya stops whispering to Annette. Annette jumps up and says, "Brandon, come here, I gotta tell you something." And I knew something within said, this isn't right. You see, throughout the night, we were so consumed with our own needs, our own wants, our own desires. We were not worried about what the next woman or man was doing. or baby for that matter. And the closer I got to the door, the louder Annette's voice became, Brandon, come here, Brandon, come here. And as I go to open the door on this abandoned house, I had to move the 2x4 that held the door shut, or locked, if you will. And as I get the 2x4 up and I open the door and attempt to pull it between, I feel this pull on my shoulder, and I turn around and it's Annette and Tanya, and they've come to the door and they're literally ripping me back in, and the baby's screaming louder. The candles are coming to an end because we've burnt them throughout the night. And this full-blown fight's ensuing, and I can't understand what's happening, but I know that I need to get out that door. And the harder I pull, the harder they grab, the louder the baby's scream becomes, and I don't know what the fuck's happening, but whatever it is, it's not right. And I'm starting to become in fear for my life, and the baby's scream is getting louder. The sun's getting brighter, the door's cracking open just a little bit more, enough for me to see that, like, I need to get out of this abandoned crack house. And all of a sudden, within this mix of pushing, of pulling, of hitting, of slapping, I hear Tanya scream to Annette, give me the knife, give me the knife, give me the knife. And as they're demanding the $10 that's in my sock, I'm putting my foot out the door. I'm trying to get closer to the door. They're pulling me back in. Tanya's now demanding the knife from Annette. Annette says, here, and gives what I think is a knife to Tanya. And with that, I feel a fucking puncture to my head, followed by another. I've now just been stabbed in the head with what I believe is this knife 5 fucking times, when all I had to do was simply give up the $10. But again, the $10 is a necessity. It is a lifeline. It is something that I cannot nor will not go without. You see, in this game called addiction that I play, it does not stand a chance against logic. Logically speaking, yes, give the $10 up. Stop enduring a stabbing to the skull over $10. But reality is I'm a junkie, and you will not take this $10 from me over my dead fucking body. 5 stabs in, blood's draining from my head. I can't take the pain anymore. I decide, fuck it. Here's the $10. And when I give them the $10, immediately they let go and scatter back into the shadow. I rip the door open as the light pierces through. Hand to my head, trying to stop the bleeding. I look to the ground and it's an ink pen. And I've now been stabbed in my head with an ink pen 5 times. All for the price of $10. And as I get outside, another shadow of the nights took mercy on me and decided to call 911. And as the ambulance appears and they're bandaging me up, they know exactly what brings me to this part of town at this time of hour. And they said, son, you have to get clean. You have to clean yourself up or you will die. And I looked at the elderly gentleman, who was in the process of patching me up, potentially saving my life, removing the infections that would have ensued as a direct result of being stabbed in the head with an ink pen 5 times, all for the low price of $10. And my response is what it's always been. And it's simply that I know. I know. Things aren't getting any better. Time's going slower. Pain's getting deeper. Wounds are becoming bigger. Scars are lasting forever. I come to this one rainy Sunday morning. I check my sock. I check my pocket. I check the sole of my shoe. I check the stash spot, the secret hole that I've created beneath my belt loop, in between my jeans, to see if I save that morning shot, that gate shot, the first shot of the day, to take the edge off. Most people have a cup of coffee. I prefer a dime bag of heroin. And I don't have it. I can't find it. Fuck, I didn't leave it. And that happened more so than I care to remember. Because although I'd start the day off with the best of intentions, it seemed like the later it got, the higher I wanted to get, the more I would shoot, with the reservation that I swear I'm gonna leave just enough to get right in the morning. Only to wake up regretting the night's decisions before. So I come to and I'm sleeping in this abandoned garage, and I have these 3 cushions that I salvaged, throwing out their old sofa. I couldn't carry the whole sofa into this abandoned garage, but what I could carry was the 3 sofas that sat on top of. And now if the 3 sofas were placed directly next to each other on the cement floor of this abandoned garage, my head and my feet hung over. It wasn't long enough. So I had to create a gap in between each sofa cushion that I laid on the ground in order to fit my whole body. And the cushions were wet the day that I brought these objects into the garage. It was raining, and they never quite dried properly, so they always had like this mildew scent. And this morning that I come to, I have to like gently open up this garage door, because what I forgot to share with you is there's people that live above in the house, and I sneak into their garage every night. And they haven't been down in this garage for quite some time. Not even sure if they're aware that it exists, but it's connected to the house above. And I hear them walking around at night. And there's a toilet in the corner that's been abandoned quite some time ago, but I consistently use it and it does not flush, so it's overflowing with piss and shit. So every morning that I sneak out, I have to be really quiet and lift this big metal grated door that slides up into the foundation of the house, and then I have to be really gentle when I let it back down, all in hopes that it doesn't alert the owners of the residence. And on this particular morning, I lift it up and I shimmy out and I let the door come down, and I go out and I perform the day's tasks at hand. My plan is that I'm going to steal this furniture. This furniture sits outside of an antique establishment, and it's this wrought iron, handcrafted metal. And it's extremely heavy, which is not my concern. The value in this is the price tag that hangs on the piece of paper that they've tied to the table. And it sits outside, it's unguarded, and it seems like it's going to be an easy score. I steal the table. I go up the street and I get on the payphone and I call my fence, and I'm waiting for him to answer. And I think that today's gonna be a great day, and he doesn't answer. And I'm sick, I'm ill, I need $10. I can't carry this table around. I could barely make it up the street to make the call, and my brain's racing. Who am I gonna call? Where am I gonna sell this table at? Nobody wants this kind of merchandise that I'm aware of. And what I thought was going to be an easy day with a quick score has turned out to be one of those days that doesn't seem like it's going to end. With no money in sight. And all I have to show for it is this humongous metal, wrought iron, handcrafted table that I have to lug around. And as each step is taken, the heavier it becomes, the more pessimistic I am about what my day is going to entail. And the funny thing about life is that it always has a way of right-sizing me. And you see, as a kid growing up in this neighborhood, skateboarding all throughout the streets, there was this one particular corner, Eastern Avenue and Patterson Park in Baltimore City. And on this corner, we would always see these young boys standing there, waiting for men to pick them up in cars, and we would laugh at them. We would joke at them. We would fuck with them. We would talk shit to them. Cut to 15 years later, I'm lugging this table around. No end in sight. No money in my future. Ill as a research monkey, I'm detoxing off heroin. And I get to that corner with this table on my back, and I hear a horn beep. And I turn around, all of a sudden becoming very optimistic, thinking that someone might want to buy this table. And it's this older gentleman in this Cadillac. And he says, "Hey, kid, table." And I say 200. He says, "I have 100, but I don't want the table." I used to stand in this same spot as a kid, calling the other boys that stood in this same spot 20 years ago fucking punks, fags, sissies, pussies, dope fiends. And I'd laugh at them. And we'd make jokes about them. And I'd swear to myself and to all my homeboys that I would never be them. I have $100, but it's not for the table, he says again. It's now 9:30 at night. You see, the dope shop up the corner closes at 10. Time is of the essence. I'm not gay, but motherfucker, I'm ill. I don't like men, but I'm dope sick. The thought of letting this man suck my dick disgusts me, but I'm ill. Logic doesn't stand a chance against addiction. I get in the car. He drives to the top of the hill. Go into a secluded space. Something I swore I would never do. He unbuttons my pants, unzips my zipper, puts his mouth to my cock, and begins sucking. Logic doesn't stand a chance against my addiction. As he's sucking, I'm completely disassociating. I've teleported myself to 2 blocks over. I'm staring at the clock. It's 9:48. I have 12 minutes to finish this act, take this $100, get to that spot to get the dope that I need to make it through that night. The act is finished. The money's received. He drives me 2 blocks, drops me at the spot. I hurry up into the alley. 4 houses up, make a right into the abandoned garage of the house where the boys serve. And when I get into the yard that leads into the garage of the abandoned house to get served, someone says to me, "Shop just closed." Shop just closed. Panic ensues. I'm retracing the events of that evening that led me to this place. I refuse to go sick throughout the night and live in that moment of clarity, replaying that man thrusting his lips up and down on my cock. I have to disconnect. I have to disassociate from reality by any and all means necessary. I take my $100, I run out of that alley onto the strip, and I'm frantically looking for a familiar face. And I'm hearing people say, "Dope, coke, boy, girl." As the minutes tick, the night grows longer, the pain becomes deeper. Frantically, I see a white kid walk away from this guy, and I think to myself, he's got to have something. I go up and I say, "Give me 7 boys and 2 girls. 7 boys is 7 dopes, 2 girls is 2 bags of coke. And I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to return back to my garage on those 3 cushions that I stole from the sofa outside in the rain. And I'm going to forget the pain that I endured that day and the things that I swore I would never do in order to get one more. It's due, well deserved, if I might say. I buy the 7 dopes, I get the 2 cokes, spend $80. And now I rush to the corner store bodega and I'm gonna buy a pack of cigarettes because tonight I'm going to live like a king. 7 dime bags, 2 nickels, and a pack of Marlboro Reds. Tonight I'm going to live like a king. And I get to the bodega and I'm in line for a pack of cigarettes. And although I want to be completely comfortable with the decision I made about who I just purchased my joy from, something in me says, boy, you better taste this. And I'm in line, there's two people in front of me before I buy the pack of cigarettes, and I pour a little bit of dope and I put it to my tongue, and it doesn't give me that bitter taste. It gives me a taste that I'm very familiar with, and it's not fucking heroin. So I throw that bag on the ground, I get another one, I put it on, I get the same taste. 3 bags in, same fucking taste. I've just bought $70 worth of drywall. The coke has to be real. Maybe he burned me on the dope, but the coke has to be real. And I put the coke on my hand, the hand to my tongue, and the coke doesn't numb my tongue. It's a familiar taste that I've tasted before, and it's not coke. I just bought $70 worth of drywall and sugar. And now the remaining $10 that I have to buy this pack of Cigarette King, I hurry up, I step out of line, because I have to make this worth my day's events. Things that I've done that I swore I would never do to acquire just one more fix. And when I step out of line, I get into the street and I see a familiar face, and I say, "Hey, I just got burned." And he said, "Of course you did. You know shop closes at 10. You knew better." And I looked at him and I said, "I know. I know." As the days grow long, the progression of my disease gets worse. The thoughts of me finding recovery seem to fade further away in the distance. The relationships that I once loved the most are non-fucking existent. You see, because the people in my life, they have to love me from a distance. For the safety of themselves and me, you have to love me from a distance. Because if you tell me that you love me, I equate that word to $10. You love me? Great. I will manipulate you. I will lie to you. I will persuade you as to why you should give me $10. Only to destroy your trust, break your heart, and to tell you that it will never happen again. And tomorrow we'll do the same fucking song and dance. So needless to say, at this point in my career, it's becoming harder and harder for me to find ways to come up with money to support my never-ending fucking heroin habit. So on this one particular day, I happened to walk past Jai Medical Center. And there's a sign outside. And it says, "We are paying people to have their blood work done." I walk into the front door and up to the desk, and I asked the lady about the sign outside, and I said, "Ma'am, I hear that you're paying people in order to have their blood work done." And she said, yes, sir, we are." And I said, "What does that entail?" And she says, We're paying people to have their blood work taken in order to understand what's going on with them. We're giving them clean needles. We're giving them clean cookers. We're giving them clean cotton swabs. We're giving them clean water. So alt is a form of harm reduction. They pay you $15 to have your blood taken, give you clean works, but here's the hit. They then pay you $25 to come back and get the results of said blood work. Right? So I go in with the intention of simply having my blood drawn, collecting $15. Never to return again. Clean needle, clean cooker, clean cottons. Yeah, seems like a good deal. I go in, they take my blood, get my clean cooker, clean needle, clean jar of water, clean cotton swabs. It's a good day. A few blocks up, Broadway Pharmacy, they cash the check, no ID needed. Win-win. I vowed that I would never go back to get those results. A few days later, I'm in this abandoned house, I'm cooking up a shot. Two bags of dope, a nickel of coke. It's gonna be a good fucking day. And as I'm cooking up the shot, I go to pull it into my syringe. And it looks like a piece of cotton slipped through the needle and it's floating around in my idiot. And I'm terrified of what could potentially happen with this, but god damn it, this is a nice shot. 2 dopes, 1 coke. I'm about to really escape this fucking terrible reality that I've created for myself as a direct result of my addiction. The days that I live for. And as I put the needle, I draw back a little bit of blood. The blood pulls into the needle. I can see that I'm on. I've hit the vein, and as I go to put the dope and the coke into my arm, that little piece of cotton that seemed to be floating around the magic liquid that allows me to escape reality, it becomes clogged in the needle. And I had heard other junkies talk about that word cotton fever and how it's the sickest feeling they'd ever felt, and do whatever you need to do to never get that. And I'm sorry. Logic doesn't stand a chance against addiction. And the harder I push, the more the reality is that my needle is clogged. And even though the fact that I'm willing to accept cotton fever, it's not working. Panic is completely ensuing me. I feel as if I'm on I've been set on a 4-alarm fire with the inside out. I can't lose this shot. And the longer the solution stays in the needle, it starts to become coagulated and it's turning into like a soft gel. I'm taking the lighter and I'm going on the outside of my needle because it kind of reliquefies it, but I can only do it so many times before I burn a hole into this plastic needle, and it's starting to become more of a gel, and panic's ensuing. I can't lose this shot. And I look on the ground, and the ground is littered with old hypodermic needles that previous junkies used in this shooting gallery to get high with. And and I'm looking on the ground and I need a new needle. I don't have an extra one with me, so I'm doing process of elimination while looking on the ground of this abandoned shooting gallery to figure out which needle I could use that probably has the least amount of diseases in it. And I'm looking at the ones that don't have as much blood in them, that the metal tip isn't bent or broke off, and I gotta act quick because the solution in the needle, my shot, is coagulating. It's turning into a paste-like substance, and fuck. So I grabbed the one with the least amount of used blood on it from the previous junkie, and I put the gel-like substance back into the cooker. I load this new dirty needle up with some water. I put it in and I re-liquefy the shot that I almost lost from my last needle that got clogged, and I pull it up in this new dirty needle that I've picked up off the ground in this abandoned shooting gallery with the least amount of stranger's blood in it, and I hurry up and I inject it. All is right with the world. Everything makes sense. The fear of whatever disease I may have just contracted by using this dirty needle that I've picked up off the ground in this shooting gallery has faded away. Two fucking days later, I'm ill as a research monkey. I can't come up with $10 to save my fucking life. I swore I wasn't gonna go back and get those results. I said that I would never subject myself to find out what was really going on with my body and the diseases that I may have acquired along the journey that I've endured for 18 years, called addiction. But God damn it, I'm sick. And that $25 that I know that's waiting for me at the clinic, if I just go back and accept the results that I swore I would remain ignorant to, is looking a little more appealing. So fuck it. Fuck it. I'm walking back to Jai Medical Facility, and I go in and I give them my name. My name is Brandon Novak. I believe there's results here waiting for me. And they said, "Oh, yes, sir. Mr. Novak, take a seat. We'll call you back shortly." "20 minutes later, the door slides open. "Mr. Novak." And I get up and I grudgingly walk back to the office. Everything's very sterile, it's very clean, it's very bright. It's everything that I'm fucking not. And I'm in a place that I swore I would never fucking come back to. Logic doesn't stand a chance against my addiction. And the woman says, "Have a seat on the table. The doctor will be in momentarily." And as I sit on the table in this room that's covered with that paper kind of blanket, and I'm reading all the little signs on the wall, the door all of a sudden opens and he walks in and he pulls out his chart and he said, "Mr. Novak?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, I understand that you've come to get the results of your blood work." And I said, "Well, doc, here's the deal. I've been a heroin addict for the better part of 18 years. I've done some things I swore I would never do. I've done some things that are very high risk. And the fact of the matter is, I'm sure I've picked up a few things along the way. So here's the deal. I'm willing to hear my results. You can read me everything, but please, please, please just do me one favor. He said, yes, sir. What's that? And I said, just don't tell me that I have HIV or AIDS. Please. You can tell me everything else that I've contracted along the way. You can tell me everything that I've gotten along my journey, but just don't tell me that I have HIV or AIDS. And he said, well, I have some bad news and some good news for you. And I said, please, doc, just don't tell me. Please. For the love of everything holy, please don't tell me that. And he says to me, the good news is you don't have HIV or AIDS. The bad news is you have hepatitis C. And I jumped up off that table and I high-fived the doctor, and the doctor looked at me as if I had 10 heads. He said, sir, I just told you that you have hepatitis C. And I said, at least I don't have fucking AIDS. And he said to me, I recommend that you check yourself into a detox immediately. Your count, your levels are through the roof. You're jaundice, your eyes are yellow, and it's likely that if you keep this up, you have 6 months to a year at best to live. And I looked at the doctor. I said, you know what, doc? I know. I know. And I walked out of that office, back to the front desk. They gave me that check for $25 right back up to Broadway Pharmacy to cash that check. No ID needed. And I went and I scored 2 more bags of dope and a nickel of coke. Shot it immediately and forgot all about the pain that I just ensued. Because I know. I fucking know. Mother's Day is coming up. Mother's Day is coming up. It's my mother. It's the woman that means the most to me in my life. This woman she's prayed for me when I didn't pray for myself. She's fed me when I didn't feed myself. She's fucking bathed me when I didn't bathe myself. She's prayed for me when I couldn't pray for myself. She's paid for me when I never paid for myself. She shows up for me when I don't show up for me. And Mother's Day is coming up. There's nothing I won't do in this world for my mother. This woman means more to me than anything in this world. And her day, Mother's Day, is coming up. And there's nothing I want more than to show my love to the woman that means the most for me, who's done for me what I've never been able to do for myself, which was simply love me, care for me, and show up for me. My intentions are to surprise her at her house in Little Italy and take her out for dinner on Mother's Day. That's my intentions. I mean it when I say it. I believe it when I share it. I am going to put a smile on the face of the woman that means the most to me. Because motherfucker, it's Mother's Day. In theory, I'm going to take her out to dinner that night and be the son that she's always dreamed of having. In reality, my disease says that's a real cute plan, bitch. Your sincerity is noble at best. Your heart is in the right place. But you see, logic doesn't stand a chance against fiction. You see, on this morning, I've received a residuals check from appearing in Jackass. And I have a few grand in my pocket. It's Mother's Day. I'm going to be the son that my mother always prayed of having. But first, before I take her to dinner, I just got to go cop a few dopes. Just to take the edge off. To allow me to be present in the moment while sharing a beautiful dinner with the woman I love the most. So I go around the way and I attempt to cop 10 bags of dope, 5 bags of coke. I figured I'd shoot 3 bags of dope and 1 bag of coke before I go to my mother's house. Step into the abandoned house, do what I do. Shoot the 3 bags of dope, 1 bag of coke. All is right with the world. Best of intentions. But my addiction said, bitch, I have different plans. And with that, the last thing I remember is nodding off. I come to in the ICU at Mercy Hospital in Baltimore City. The very same hospital that my mother is on the board of. I frantically take inventory of the current state that I'm in. I look down. I'm completely naked. I have a catheter in my dick. I have tubes up my nose. And I have things attached to my fingers. I am not high. Panic ensues. I'm a stranger in my own skin. I don't know who the fuck let me in. And more importantly, why? I hit the call button, I hit the call button, I hit the call button. The nurse comes in. I said, nurse, what happened? Where am I? How did I get here? What time is it? Where are we? Where are we? She said, son, you overdosed last night. You were beaten up and robbed. Someone anonymously called 911 while you were getting beat up and robbed. And the police came. And when they pulled up, they found an unresponsive white male Caucasian, who had been beaten to a bloody pulp with no pulse. And I said, "Where are my clothes?" Because I had a few thousand in my pocket. And she points to the ground, and my clothes had been cut off. And when I ask for my jeans, she gives them to me, and I put my hand in the pocket, and they're completely fucking empty. I said, "What time is it?" She says, 12:30. "12:30 at night or 12:30 in the morning?" She says 12:30 in the morning. I was supposed to take my mother to dinner for Mother's Day last night. And she said, "Sweetheart, you're not going anywhere." And I said, "Can I please use the phone? Can I please use the phone?" And she hands me the phone next to my hospital bed, and I call my mother, and fuck, man. And I call my mother. And I call my mother and I said, Mom, fuck. I'm so sorry. This wasn't how it was supposed to play out. I was going to show up. I wanted to show up. I fucking promised you I would show up. Fuck, man. Fuck. I had given these speeches to my mother so many times in the past, but this is one of those rare occasions that I fucking meant it. Fuck, man. I swore. I meant. I felt, I believed what I said. I wanted to give her one night to forget about the 20 fucking years of pain that I created. I just wanted to give her one night of a reprieve. And I said, Mom, fuck, man. I said, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she said, Brendan, this will be the last time that I ever speak to you. This is it. But I want you to know, and this is what I will leave you with. This is the first time I've ever shared this publicly. She said, this is what I will leave you with. Last night, as I sat by the front door, waiting for you to appear to take me to dinner for Mother's Day, and I finally realized that it was not going to happen, and that I received the phone call that you had been beat up, robbed, and overdosed back in the ICU at my hospital, reality set in. So instead of having a nice, peaceful dinner with my son, the peaceful dinner that I've dreamed of having for over a decade now that never fucking happens, I decided that I was going to make sure you were safe one last time, so that when I hang this call up, I will never have to wonder, will you be okay? Instead of having that dinner with you on Mother's Day, like you promised me you'd do, I want you to know that I spent going to buy 2 grave plots. One for me and one for you. So that when I die, I never have to worry or wonder, will my son will he be safe? This is the last time that we will speak. And she said, I'm going to pray to God that you get help. Promise me that you'll do with that son that I love, that I miss, that I haven't seen in almost 20 years. You gotta stop doing heroin. And I said, Mom, I know. No one ever fucking told me the pain that was going to come with possessing this one job for the better part of my life that consisted of knowing everything. No one warned me. No one told me. I refuse that. I refuse to allow that call to be the last call that I ever had with my mother. Shortly thereafter, I found myself at a position and place in life where the pain became so fucking unbearable. The thought of those being the last words I ever heard from the woman that means the most to me allowed me to do what I had never done before, which was pick that phone up, reach out, ask for help, but more importantly, follow through with what was being recommended and given to me. May 5th, 2015, I walked into, God willing, my very last treatment center a little over 10 years ago. And the first thing that happened was I went from possessing that job that consisted of knowing everything to coming to the realization that what I do know is that I don't have a fucking clue. And I was able to look back and recognize the behavioral pattern that led me to this point in time, to see that the common denominator in every one of them was me. And if I just got the fuck out of my way, I might stand a chance. And I got to this place in life where I was surrounded by enough like-minded people who personally invested their time, effort, and energy into showing me a better way of life. For the first time in my life, they helped me uncover my problem in order to discover my problem if I had any hopes to recover from my problem. I remained teachable just long enough to acquire the information that was needed in order to overcome the adversity that I had always fallen short of. Turn my defects into my assets. My poison has become my medicine. And today I sit before you with over 10 years of continuous sobriety. And the reason why that is because I came to the realization that what I do know is that I don't know. I think that's it, my friend.
Amazing. You're the best, Brandon.
I don't know if I was able to achieve out on in the beginning of the talk that I wanted to do, because I didn't hear it, I just said it.
Yeah. It was great. You're always great.
I had never done anything that way. I never shared in depth what that last call was like. I talk openly about her biplot, but that call on that day that I intended to be prayed for is what back to reality, to like, it took me to this place in my addiction where the drink and the drugs stopped working, right? Like, because prior to that point, no matter how bad things became or what I was doing, I'd ingest a drink or a drug and this delusional effect was always produced, which would allow me to escape the reality that I had created for myself as a direct result of addiction. And that was good. That was desired, right? So like, I could be homeless under the bridge and I do a shot of heroin, and not only does it become tolerable, it becomes like desirable, right? Like, it creates this delusional narrative in my mind that allows me to escape from reality to where the abnormal becomes normal. And that's what addiction for me is. But what do I do when I'm 38 years old and that's the last call that I have with the most important person to me in my life who's still alive? The amount of heroin or cocaine that I ingest into my arm is producing that delusional effect that allows me to escape that memory that clouds my fucked up mind, that lets me live in this fantasy world as if that never happened, which now I have to become accountable for my actions and look at the part that I played, because the moment of clarity I live in is 24/7, high or fucking sober. The fuck do you do? Unbeknownst to me, at the time, my mother saved my life. I believe that happened through the power of prayer. Because she would pray for me. She would go to church across the street from her house in Little Italy, and she would get on her knees and she would pray to God, please, God, please. And one day, Father Mike, who's the preacher of the church at the time, was walking up the aisle, and my mother, as usual, on her knees, praying, and crying and praying at the same time. And Father Mike sees my mom crying while praying and says, Father Mike says, Miss Pat, what's wrong? Is it your son? And my mom said, Father Mike, yes, it's Brandon. He's never been so bad. He's not going to make it through the night. And so I'm simply going to God with one prayer, and I'm asking God, please cure him or kill him, because I can't take this anymore. And Father Mike looked at my mother, and he screamed at my mother. He said, how dare you go to God with a plan like this? God has a plan. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And Brandon doesn't know what it is. And I always say, thank God, God is God, and I'm not God. I will fuck that job up. And looking back on that day, in that time, thank God I didn't know what the plan was. Because I sit before you today with over a decade, sober consistently. And I'm here to tell you that if you too suffer from possessing that same job I held consistently, that consisted of knowing everything, call me. 610-314-67. Let's get you the fucking help you deserve, not what you need. How dare I be blessed with this beautiful new life and forget where the fuck I came from? The pain that I endured to get to where I'm at. Therefore, today I have devoted my life to helping people who are where I once was. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. I think that's it.
Amazing. When I was designing
Charlie wakes up, the sun's too bright. Another day, another fight. The coffee's bitter, but it's real. A little proof he still can feel. 5 years down, but the climb's so steep, the beast still whispers in his sleep. Charlie's clean for 5 long years, strong as stone, but the crack appears still fighting, still standing tall. The hardest battles are the ones that call. He drives past streets he used to know, ghosts in alleys, faces glow. He rolls the window, breathing deep, leaves the past where the shadows creep. 5 years gone and the scars still sting, but he wears them proud like a brother.